name is Kenzie and welcome to a watercolor video. We're going to be painting this bunny. I thought this was so much fun. Painting animals is pretty tricky, so just be graceful with yourself if this is your first time tackling an animal. I had a lot of fun painting this. I hope that you do as well. I'd love to see your finished work, and let's get started. So this right here is my Winsor Newton watercolor paints that I have taken from the tube and put it inside this palette that I got off of Amazon. I have a tapping cloth right here. It's always good to have one. That way you don't have excess water on your page. I also have my 2 water cups right here. One I use for cool paints and one I use for my warmer paint colors. I also have right here my dryer. I like to use this to speed up the process between layers. These are the brushes that I use. These are the silver black velvet. I have size 12, 4, and 8, and these are the round tip brushes. These 2 items I use all the time. This is called masking fluid. It acts as a cover. So wherever I put this masking fluid, let it dry, I can paint over top, can make sure my painting is 100% dry. I can scrape off the masking fluid and that area will be left untouched. So I use this a lot, but make sure to use an old brush because it does get kind of goopy and you'll end up with a broken brush. I also like to use bleed proof white. This is a very highly pigmented white, which will sit on top of any type of color. These 3 palettes I do use often. They are the Prima Marketing palettes. I am going to be using the Vintage Pastels. In this painting as an example, I always like to have painter's tape on hand. I like to paint down my paintings. It's easier to 1 film and to also just keep everything from moving around and it getting a little messy. It also helps to protect your desk, which you'll see mine is very worn. So it definitely does help with that. Okay, let's paint our little bunny. So the first thing that I want to do is just paint the background first. So I'm gonna mix up a nice blue sky. I'm gonna come around my bunny. So I don't want this whole sheet to be blue. I want it to fade off in the distance. So I'm gonna come around and stop around a little tail area. And I'm gonna paint this section. I'm going to stop. I'm going to get rid of everything on my brush, and using just water I'm going to blend and pull this out, and you'll see a nice gradient of blue. So I'm going to repeat this all the way around. I'm going to come around the little ear section. Gonna just add a little bit more of like a brighter blue in here. Get rid of everything on my brush and pull out. No, I want this to dome a little bit more, sorry. Okay, now pull out all the way up and around. I want this to be a little bit darker in here. Okay, so this is the wet on dry technique that I'm using right here. This is when we have wet paint on a dry surface. The dry surface is obviously my page. It is not wet, which is why you'll see here when I put it down, I do have harsh lines. And that is why I'm using water to blend this out so that I don't have harsh lines everywhere. Okay, so I'm going to come into this section. I'm going to stop around the tail of this bow. I'm going to bring it out just a bit. Get rid of everything on my brush. And I want it to look different. Like I don't want everything to look the same. Like I want the background to look like it has some dimension to it. Like these watermarks right here, they aren't really bothering me. Let's blend them out just a little bit. Too much because I want there to look like there's lots of definition and almost kind of like clouds in the background too. Okay, so I'm gonna come around over here. Getting my little bunny's feet, adding a little bit more blue. Actually, I don't know. I'm gonna not do that blue. I want to do that green. Maybe I'll just bring it all the way around for now and then put some green over it. Since I already did a blue. I got in the painting zone, so I painted that bottom part blue. I'm gonna change that. So again, to kind of match what I have over here, I'm gonna touch around different areas while it's still wet so that I can have some nice different texture of blue on my background. Okay, touching, pulling. Okay, so I'm gonna dry this before I can touch my little rabbit. Okay, so for my rabbit, I'm gonna mix a little bit of brown and gray. Now, it's really important when you're painting, especially animals, but honestly anything in watercolor, you always want to start light. If you go too dark, it's going to be way too hard to layer. So I have my burnt umber, my other brown, and then I have my gray already mixed into right here. And again, I'm going to start off going really, really, really light. And I'm not going to worry too much about staying inside the lines. Now that I have the background done, it's not going to bother me too much. So I'm going to come around. And I'm going to paint the back because it's going to be the darkest part of my little bunny. All right, so I'm going to grab a different brush. Oh, that has purple on it. Different brush. And I'm going to try to blend out that line that I have to nothingness. Oh, way too much water on my brush there. Okay, blend, blend, blend. Underneath here, it's going to be pretty dark, so I'm just going to apply that first color. Under here will be dark, so I'm going to apply that nice shadow color that I have. So this is my first layer. This is how we're going to create some depth and dimension with our piece by putting down our layers. Underneath right here where he's sitting, there's a crease in his little paw. That's going to be definitely a lot darker. I'm trying to think. Right here will be his little arm. And here will be dark as well. Blend that little line out. And then underneath this bow, we'll have a nice shadow going. I'm going to blend this part out. Okay, so this is really nice to get your first layers down first. I'm going underneath my bow over here. And I'm blending because, like I just said, with the wet on dry technique, you do get harsh lines in it. How I paint, I really don't like harsh lines in my paint. Okay, so I'm going to come around and do my first layer up here. Do you guys notice how nice and soft my brown is? And that's the reason why at the end I'll be able to have lots of layers and textures. You also see in here I'm leaving just a little bit of white space. Again, that will just help me create some depth and dimension within my piece. So I'll have lighter and darker parts. So don't be afraid to just kind of leave some spots nice and open. It'll just kind of help you in the long run. I'm going to come around his forehead area over here. Towards his nose. I'm going to and then blend this out. I don't want harsh lines. And then around the brow area, I'm going to come in on the other side and then blend out this harsh line that I have right here on the top of the head. Add a little bit of brown color as well. Right in where his, I don't know what they call them, like cheeks. Right in this area, I'll add some depth. Always blending out with water afterwards to avoid any harsh lines. Coming in and creating some shape at the side of its head as well. Okay, cool. Okay, so again with this lighter brown color, I'm going to come in and just add some layers to down here where its little feet are, and just give it just a little bit of brown. But again, I'm going really light because I just don't want this to be the main focus, but I do want to have just like a little bit of color down. Okay, so this would technically be my first layer for the body. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on putting the first layers down on everything else. I find that that's really important to do. So I'm going to come around the tail area. I'm going to leave some white space in the middle, but I'm going to come in and make the base of the tail a little bit darker where it meet the body. I'm going to make a little bit of a pink color. Add a little bit of red to my pink. Okay. For the ears, again, I'm going super light. And then I'm going to come in around this area while it's still wet. And just add a little bit of depth to that inner ear. So this is still wet. I'm adding some shadow colors. I'm just mixing in a little bit of gray. I'm going to mix in a little bit more red now. I'm going to blend out that harsh line that I have right here with some water. Okay, cool. I'm going to do the other side. I just repeated what I did by just adding a little bit more red and a little bit more gray towards this inner part, because this part will be more shadowed. I can even come in here and just add a little bit more reddish pink in there. Okay, so that's my first layer of my inner ear. Now I can come in with that pink color, do the outline of its mouth. With that pink, I'm going to come and do its eyes. So I'm going to add some pink and brown together, and I'm going to do the inside of the tear duct and over here with that color. And this is going to be the side of its eye over here, so I don't have to worry too much about that. So I can also add a little bit more brown. I'm going to add some red to it. I need some more brown. And I'm going to do the outside more of like a hazel brown color for its eyes. Get rid of everything on my brush. I'm going to come in and just blend it out. And just for the sake of time, I do want to just dry this. I'm going to come in and do the outside. And I'm going to add some shadows to the eye. Okay, so now that I have this first layer done, I'm going to add a little bit more of a light gray black color for the eye. Again, I don't want to go too dark because I don't want, I don't know, sometimes when you're painting with watercolor, the inside of the eye can definitely be tricky because if you go too black, that's all you kind of see is just black. So I'm definitely being careful. I want it to obviously be black, but I just don't want to go crazy and just have it be too dark. Okay, so there's the inside of the eye. I'm going to come around here to this side and just add a little bit more darkness to the eye area. Okay, so to kind of finish-ish off the area, I want to dry it. Okay, so now what I can do is I can start to just add some more depth to it. So I'm using the very tip of my brush. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag out this line that I just painted and bring it down. I'm going to grab that brown color that I was using for the eye, and I'm also going to put this in while it's still wet. I'm going around the eye again just to make it pop. I'm going to dry this. Actually, before I dry it, I'm going to scoop the bottom part right underneath so it just looks a little bit lighter, so we have a natural highlight. Okay, and then again with this dark brownish color, I'm going to focus more on the top and on the inside area right by the iris to make it dark. Then I'm going to come in with my black. And I'm going to kind of outline the shape of the eye. I'm going to come around and give it the nice shape. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to come back to this because it's really standing out right now. I'm going to do the rest of the body and then add more depth to it. So with this color that I have from the eye, I'm going to come over top the pink that I have put down for its little nose and for its mouth. So you'll start to just kind of see a little bit of pink just kind of underneath. And I just added a little bit more pink because it was kind of hard to see. I went really thin the first time. So I'm going to dry all of this. Okay, cool. So now I can come in and do my first layer. So what I want to do is I want to have a yellow bow. I'm going to paint my first layer of my yellow bow. And I'm going to do the outside of my bow. And you'll see I've left a lot of white space. I got rid of everything on my brush. And I'm just going to tap the line here. So now I have a nice blended highlight area. So I'm going to do it on the other side again. I'm going to come in with my yellow. I'm going to kind of do a thick outline of my bow, leaving a big chunk in the middle. Get rid of everything on my brush, just touching this line. It's too much water. Just touching this line. I'm going to blend it out, not going inside. And now I have a nice blended yellow. I just gotta blend it out a little bit more. Okay, cool. I'm gonna come in and do this part of my bow. I'm gonna leave the middle part so that it has time to dry. Again, I'll leave a little bit of a highlight in the middle, or maybe towards the bottom, sorry. I debated between a pink or blue, but I think yellow. It's just a happy color. Reminds us all of spring. So I'll do yellow. And I think with the blue sky, I think it'll be a nice pop of color. So I'm gonna mix orange because the inside in here, I'll have it be a really nice light orange color because it's supposed to be a shadow. Okay, get some more yellow. And then for the inside of my bow, again, I'm going to do the exact same thing that I just did. I'll leave my middle, get rid of everything on my brush, and then just touch around to kind of break up that harshness that I have. Okay, so now it's starting to kind of come together. So this is my first layer. This is my middle zone where I might feel a little bit uncomfortable or just not loving how everything is coming together. That's when you just need to keep going and just add more layers. And then you'll start to find that it all just kind of comes together. Okay, so now I'm coming in on the wet on dry technique. Everything on here is dry and I can just add more depth and dimension. That's a little dark, so I'm gonna get some water here and just break up what I just did. So around the eyebrow area and towards the top of my bunny's head, I'm going to add a little bit more brown. And then on this side by the brow area, I'm going to add a little bit more darkness, spreading it out. And then on my bunny's cute little nose, I'm going to add some depth to there too. On the little cheeks by its mouth, underneath its mouth, and then down the side. It's a little dark. I'm going to blend it out. See how that just made so much more of a difference? So that would be my second layer. I'm going to let that dry before I come in and do any more layers. So the trick here, now that I'm on to my second layer, is I want to make sure that when I am applying my second layer, I'm not completely covering the first layer that I put down. Otherwise, you're just going to make your painting darker. You're not going to get much depth to it. So keep that in mind to make sure that you're leaving some gaps, some white space, so that your second layer can definitely shine through and just give you that extra pop of color. Okay, I'm going to come down my body back here, doing the same thing that we did before, coming around our bow. Coming around the back. And I'm going to let this area be where I let it shine through. Remember we just talked about that? So I'm not going to come as far down. I'm just going to blend out this line and see now I have 1, 2, 3 different shades right in here for my bunny. Add a little bit more darkness underneath in here. Add a little bit of red. Underneath my little bunny's body, right in here is dark. Painting animals is pretty tricky because it's just all about layering and just not going too dark. Coming in here along the edges with this reddish brownish color that I mixed. Coming around the inside, it's a little tail. I'm gonna just mix and blend this out a little bit more. I'm gonna come in with this reddish color as well, And I'm just gonna bring it in more along in here. Blend it out. Bringing it more in towards the body area. Coming in with this reddish color around the sides. Coming in with it on the nose. So you'll see I am moving pretty fast. It's because I'm trying to not fixate on an area. If I just fixate, I feel like I'd never complete a project. So this is definitely one way that I, help not fixate what I just said, but also I also let certain areas dry, because otherwise everything will just kind of start to blend and you just won't be able to get the depth that you're looking for. So by me jumping around and going really fast, I'm definitely giving myself ample opportunity to move along with my piece pretty quickly. Come in with some more shadows in here. I feel like it's just a little dull. And its little head. That little head needs more love. Okay, coming in with a little bit more pink. I want to add more pink to the little mouth area right in there. I think I want to mix in a little bit more gray. I want this to be a little bit more gray on certain areas. So along the sides right in here, I'm just adding a little bit more of a gray tone to my bunny. Along in here, the eyebrow bone area, I'm going to add a little bit more of a gray to it, coming along in here. Blending it out. And I'm just adding a little bit more texture to my bunny. More like flicks than trying to just blend everything out. Oh, that's too dark. So again, using more of like a flicking motion, I'm gonna add a little bit more depth in here. Okay, so for the legs, I'm gonna come in with a nice light wash of the color that I've been using for his body, but I'm gonna leave a little bit of a highlight area as well for his little paw. I'm gonna come in with that light wash color, not going too dark. And then its other little paw, making sure I'm leaving some white space as well, just to kind of make it stand out that much more. I'm gonna add some depth right in here. So this is just all about layer after layer. I don't know how many times I've been over certain areas, 4, 5, 6 times at this point. And this is just the fun part of figuring out watercolors, figuring out when you feel like your painting's done, that you can stop and move along. So I'm gonna put down my brush for a hot second, and I'm gonna take a look around my painting, and then I can start to put on my final layers in this final part. We'll pull everything together. I feel like I have enough depth going on. I wanna work on my bow, my eye, and then maybe just shadow and emphasize certain different areas. But right now I feel like I'm on track for a cute little bunny. So take a look at your painting and see maybe where you wanna kind of plan out some of your shadows and final details. I just got a little bit of stuff right here that I gotta clean up. Okay, so I've looked around here and I'm thinking I want to add a little bit more, just kind of like odd little flicks and details to certain parts. So I'm just going around using the very edge of my brush. And I'm also using the tip of my brush in some strokes as well. This will probably be my final layer. I don't like that. I'm gonna scrub it out with some water. I'm gonna get a little bit more love and attention to the paws here. Focusing on its little shape, trying to have it more curved towards the bottom of the feet. So I'm coming in, just adding just a little bit more shadow towards the bottom, especially in here. Shadow under here. And at the base of its little paws as well, I'm going to add a little bit more love to it. And this will just help it kind of create its nice shape. Trying to see where else. I want to give its eye a little bit more attention. I feel like it's just standing out a little bit too much. So I'm going to go around the eye socket a bit. Going under the eye. Actually, I have to dry this. I'm finding it's just blending. Going underneath the eye now with a little bit of a darker brown. I'm going to dry this really quick. So I'm coming above the eye as well, shadowing that out a bit. I'm going to come around its little cheek area over here. underneath its chin. I'm going to add a little bit more love up here to kind of connect. Okay, so for the bow tie, I'm going to come in, there's a little bit of brown in the palette in here with the yellow. I'm going to come around where the ink marks are, and I'm going to just do a little bit of creases. So I'm doing some lines coming from the inside of the bow. I'll just help give the bow a little bit more dimension. I'm going to add a little bit of orange to it. So I just added some cadmium red in here. I'm going to touch the base of where it just was, coming in here. Coming around the larger part of it. So I have to dry this now. I come underneath my knot and add a bit of a shadow, under the chin and add a little bit more of a shadow. And add a little bit of brown. So I'm going to dry this again. I'm going to add just a hair of brown underneath the bow in here, blending it out with just water. So I have to make sure everything is dry because we don't want it to blend and bleed. I also don't want to completely cover this area with brown. I just want to just do the top. So again, it just helps with the shadowing. Gonna add some purple in this brown. Purple's a really good shadow color. I like shadowing with purple because it's not as harsh as black. I'm going around these edges again with this purple. This purple brown, I should say. And I'm using more of a wash than pigment because I don't want it to stand out too much. Blend this out. Okay. And if we want to, we can, you know, put some fun designs into our bow, or you can leave it pretty simple. What I'm going to do now is I am going to mix up a little bit of sap green into here. I actually already have some in my palette. I'm going to come underneath my little bunny. I'm going to kind of do the same technique that I just did. I'm going to use a lot more pigment directly underneath. I'm going to bring it out just a bit. And then I'm going to get rid of everything on my brush. I'm going to just blend it out. Just touching that bottom part of the line right here. blending out any harsh lines. I'm gonna come in with a little bit more pigment and just touch directly under, because this is the wet on wet technique. It should just naturally blend out. As long as it's not too dry in some areas. Okay, and then you know what I might, I'm gonna come in and just do some flicks, some areas. I'm gonna let this dry. And I'm gonna add a little bit of, lost my brush. I'll add a little bit of brown so this green just stands out that much more. Just do some odd little flicks. I don't like that there. Blend it out. Okay, cool. I have my little bunny. I hope that you were able to learn some fun little tips and tricks along the way. The main thing that, we can focus on is just making sure you go really light and just doing lots of layers. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but it's building up those layers, focusing on the wet on dry, that you're able to get the layers that you'll desire for loose watercolor, animal, bunny, whatever you're painting. So happy painting, friends. I hope you had a great time.